This Memorial Day weekend, Disney went head to head with Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning by releasing Lilo and Stitch. Now, to give you a bit of context, growing up, Lilo and Stitch was literally my favourite Disney film. Obviously, other than Pixar and stuff, I was kind of a Cars guy and things like that. But as a Disney film, I always loved Lilo and Stitch because I really loved the original film. And then they did the sequels and the television series where they were trying to find all the past experiments and stuff. It was a really, really fun show. And it was basically like Disney's Pokemon. So I really, really enjoyed the show. And kind of building up to this film, I have actually been going back to the original cartoon just to watch that and bring back some memories. And they announced they're doing a live action Lilo and Stitch, and I was definitely as skeptical as the next person because some of the live action remakes haven't been the best, and it was originally going to be a straight to Disney Plus film, and the budget was quite low. So I'm like, how do you go about doing that? And then they went to doing it as a theatrical film. And then, kind of just for a long time, they were putting out these little teasers, but they were never actually showing us footage of the film. And that really had me so concerned that they just were showing stuff of Stitch, but nothing of Lilo or any other aliens and stuff like that. And they were never showing the actual film. So does that mean this film is not very good? Does this mean they don't want to share it with us? And so they released the first trailer, and I was like, okay, all right, this is good. I'm actually liking this. And I got a chance to see the film the other day. And with all that said, let's share my thoughts about Lilo and Stitch. And to put it into small words, I thought this film was delightful. I had a lot of fun with this film. I just thought it was so funny. I thought it was sweet. I thought it had heart. I just thought it had the magic of the original film. And I know I've seen a lot of people on the internet saying that this film did not capture the magic. This is a completely soulless remake, much like all the other Disney remakes. And I think some of that I can see where you're coming from, but I just felt that same magic. It was a nostalgic film. It brought back those memories, and it was just such a fun film to sit and watch. And of course, we've got Lilo and Stitch, who are, of course, the best part of this film. The actress of Lilo does a phenomenal job. Really great job. Really sweet, charming, cute, all of those things, and really interacts with Stitch, who is not actually there when you're filming Lilo and Stitch. Surprise, surprise. And Stitch is just as amazing as he was 20 years ago. Of course, we have Chris Sanders returning to do the voice. And he is just so phenomenal in this voice. And whether they are reusing lines, which they do in this film, it's not that big of an issue. They do reuse lines though. And things like that. It is just so much fun to see Stitch and his communication and learning about things like family and helping this broken family deal with grief, loss, and bringing this family back together. And something this film does, which not a lot of other Disney remakes have done, is where some of the changes are actually for the better. Granted, some of them are actually for the worst. I'll get into that a little bit later. But this one really leans into the relationship, the sisterhood and the relationship between Lilo and her older sister Nani. And it really delves into their backstory, their relationship, where they are now and how they're going to cope. And I think it works better here because I think it's going to appeal to people who are going through the same thing or have gone through the same thing, because it is a very realistic story, perhaps. And I think there will be people that connect with this version of the story a lot more. And that sisterhood really grows an emotional connection to you. And I think that is where a big theme of the emotion is going to come. And I'm really glad that they expanded on that, because it's not like they didn't do it very well in the original. I just thought that they were, because it was live action and because you weren't watching cartoon humans do it, just watching two real life humans interact and share their grief and emotion really just added something which the original just didn't quite have, as I thought. I would say the CGI looks flawless. I mean, yeah, there were a few cuts, Gantu is not in this film, and it was reported that this film only had a budget of $100 million. Yes, you do feel that, but the film's main priority was to bring Stitch to life. And they got that right. They got the most important thing right. They brought Stitch to life. He was good. He looked good. He was charming. He was funny. He was chaotic. He was adorable. They got all those things right. And the design of him is really, really good. Jumba and Pleakley, I had no complaints with the designs of them. I guess Pleakley maybe was a little bit too, like, slimy. And his eye was a little bit weird. Like, I don't really know. It didn't look like an eyeball. And I know I'm talking about an alien here, but it just didn't look like an eyeball to me. Jumba's design, though, pretty good. I don't think there was a lot of places where it went wrong. I didn't mind the design all that much. And this film really does, because it's live action, it's able to embrace the Hawaiian culture a little bit more. You know, it's got the music, it's got the surfing, it's got the dancing, it's got all of those things, and it just embraces it a little bit more and becomes a little bit more immersive where the animated film didn't. And, you know, it is a film where when it does the animated moments, whether it's the surfing or it's how Hana means family, things like that, it really connects with you and it really tugs at those heartstrings. And I just felt like it had the same amount of motion as the original did. I thought they captured that really, really well. And I genuinely really appreciate that. So with that said, let's move on to the mixed aspects of my review. And there's not really a lot to say here, and these aren't really good or bad things. They're just some things you might want to need to know when going into the film. So the first thing is Gantu is not in this film, so don't expect Gantu to be in there. I will be speaking a little bit more about that in a minute. And also there is a mid-credit scene, but it kind of ties into the credits because there's clips that roll during the mid-credits and then there's a credit scene. So I think it's quite hard to miss unless you are just leaving. You don't want to see the end of the film. So you shouldn't be too bad with that. But with all that said, let's move on to the bad of Lilo and Stitch. And in all honesty, I thought this was a really strong live-action remake and a lot better than some of the other ones. Granted, I haven't seen Snow White yet, so I can't share my thoughts on that. But my biggest issue with this film, and it is the same as most other people, I was really underwhelmed by Jumba and Pleakley. Now, I heard before going into the film that Jumba and Pleakley were slightly different to how they were in the original. So Pleakley, he's not too bad, and the actor playing him does a good enough job with the character he's playing. You know, he tries to add his new flavour to it, and things like that, and it works. You know, he's not in it that much. I thought he didn't actually have that much to do, and if he wasn't in the film, he probably wouldn't make that much difference. But the big issue with this film is Jumba. So I said before, Gantu is not in this film. Okay, that's fine. Gantu wasn't in it in the original that much, so, you know, we can work around that. But Gantu was the villain of the film. He was the antagonist, and when Jumba and Pleakley in the original were kind of villains, but they were also just people doing their job, and they weren't willing to hurt people. They were just willing to get Stitch and get out of here. Because the film wanted to have a villain and wanted to have a big, massive final battle, the villain role goes to Jumba. And I really didn't like it. I've got two things to talk about. So, firstly, we've got Zach Galifianakis voicing him. I love Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover, but this was a massive miscast for me. So he doesn't have like his Russian accent. He's not got that. I can maybe look past that a little bit. Just a little bit. It did still frustrate me and it wasn't something I got used to. But also it just wasn't very funny. Like, I just didn't find any of the scenes with Jumba that funny. And there's so many scenes that are set up to be laughable moments, and they're just not. I mean, some people may. I didn't find it funny at all. And having Jumba be the villain, when in the original he was, you know, this evil scientist, but he also had this soft side where he wasn't willing to hurt Lilo or any other humans. He was just getting Stitch. In fact, he didn't even really want to hurt Stitch. He had his blaster, but that was more for defensive reasons. And when you put the villain role on someone like that, Jumba is really unlikable in this film, and he is just this, by the end of the film, he's just this vile, nasty character who's just not very fun to watch. And there's just no themes of that Ohana with him, nothing like that. And it really doesn't work. I really, really was not satisfied with what they did with Jumba. And for me, it may sound small to someone who maybe didn't grow up with Lilo and Stitch, but for me, who, you know, watched him in the television series and all the other films, and, you know, how he learned more about Ohana and things like that, it wasn't that great. I didn't really enjoy it. And, you know, there are a few other changes which didn't really sit well with me. You'll notice when you see the film, so I'm not really going to share them. There is a change in the ending with the sisters. I've seen a lot of people complaining about it, saying they ruined it. I really don't think they did, if I'm honest. I think it actually works better than the original did. I actually liked it a little bit more, I'll be honest with you. So, you know, that's just my opinion, though. I can understand why maybe someone wouldn't like it, but I didn't have a lot of issues with it at the end of the day. There's also a few little changes with Cobra Bubble's role, and there's like a new neighbour character in it as well. And they bring back some old voices from the original. So there's some fun little things like that, and there's, you know, like I said, there's some reused voice lines which may become noticeable to diehard Lilo and Stitch fans. But apart from that, I had a really fun time with this film. Do I prefer it to the original? No. But did it need to be better than the original? No. And it wasn't trying to be, so there's not really much of an issue there. So I think this is a really, really fun film. It's already making all the money. I definitely think it's worth your time. It's a really fun, sweet film. Definitely worth watching. So with that said, I'm going to give Lilo and Stitch a solid like 8.5 out of 10. And for me, this film would literally be a 9.5, coming close to a 10 out of 10 if the Jumba thing wasn't an issue. But apart from that, this is a really, really good film. If you've got kids or you grew up with the original, I recommend you do go see this film. I don't feel as if it ruined the original for me. Maybe there was a few bits which definitely could have been improved. But I'm hoping that they do a sequel and they can maybe give it a higher budget, improve, and maybe do some more with Jumba. Maybe give him that redemption which he deserves. But with that said, guys, that is going to wrap up this video, guys. So please do comment and subscribe and share this video with your friends, family, and let me know your thoughts on the Lilo and Stitch live action remake down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you somewhere in the middle? And how did you grow up with the original? Have you got nostalgia for it? Have you never seen it before? Did you only watch it just recently? All that fun stuff. But that's all for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.